We got something to say.
How's everybody doing this morning? Yeah? Good? All right, everybody calm. All right, have a seat. You're thinking, who is this crazy guy getting us to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and clap, right? Well, let me tell you something. I showed you those two videos of the Lincoln commercial with Matthew McConaughey and Jim Carrey because it's an essence of a brand. Here you have a Lincoln car brand who is trying to be serious by taking a very well-known actor in Matthew McConaughey, for those of you that follow his career, and they did what I thought was a pretty cool TV commercial. But what's been really interesting is how many parodies have been done of Matthew McConaughey's Lincoln car TV commercials. And my favorite is the one that followed the real commercial with Jim Carrey. For a brand, you can't ask for more because the millions upon millions of hits that the Jim Carrey parody has had is what? Free PR and free advertising for a great brand. And what's interesting about the parody that was done on Saturday Night Live with Jim Carrey is that it wasn't necessarily knocking the car. It was making fun of Matthew McConaughey. And as a brand, whether good or bad, they've gotten so much additional exposure, so much additional recognition, and I'm curious if it has resulted in sales at the dealership. So I wanted to share that with you a little bit. Being that I'm an ad guy, I thought that would be a little bit of fun entertainment as we got started. I also had to delay my entrance to the stage because we have a uniform policy today, and I had to get Brian out of his clothes so that I could put it on. And then I'll take these off and give it to the next speaker. All right, it's too early for fun, I guess. We're gonna get right into the presentation. I'm a fun guy, so I hope we'll have fun together this morning. So let me share a little bit about who I am and where I came from very briefly. I was born and raised in Switzerland until I was 8. And then I moved to the beautiful state of Oregon and grew up in the Portland area. Graduated from high school in Portland and came all the way to Bowling Green, Kentucky to go to WKU. Now you're asking yourself, how in the world, first of all, would you ever leave Switzerland? That's my father's fault. But we left Switzerland and we went to Oregon, so at least I still had mountains to ski on. And then I moved by choice to Bowling Green, Kentucky to go to WKU. And I'm here because I love Bowling Green. And I graduated from WKU, married my wife who's born and raised here in Bowling Green, and I've been here for 24 years. Absolutely love it. It's a great community. So that's how I got here and will be here until I probably pass from this earth. So as I said, I'm an ad guy. That's what I have done for 20 plus years. I also do a lot of public speaking around the country and speak at conferences and events about the things that I'm passionate about. And I hope you will get to see some of that today come out of me. And finally, if the clicker will work, this is my motivation right here. My 17-year-old daughter, Haley, my 13-year-old son, Tyler. This is what I get up for every day right here. And I appreciate you letting me be here this morning to talk about how we're going to get our brand on. Very important. For those of you in the audience, I'm curious, how many of you want to be an entrepreneur someday? Want to own a business, start a business, own a product, create a product, invent an idea? It starts with the heart and it starts with your passion. And so this morning, we're going to talk about brands and why creating and developing a brand for your business or your product is extremely critical. You've got the idea. You've got the passion for it. Now, how do we bring that to life? And why is that important? So brands are everywhere. Everywhere we go, we are bombarded with brand messages. Probably from the time you got up this morning until you arrived here, you experienced or interacted with dozens upon dozens of brands. Maybe subliminally, but you still saw them and registered them in some form or fashion. We used to not have that as much, but we're in a society today where brands are literally everywhere. So this morning, as we talk about your ideas, your innovations, and your inventions, take that passion and do something with it, but create a brand for that business and for that brand or that product or that service. And I'm going to explain why it's important. Now, obviously, this is what I do for a living, so I'm extremely passionate about it, right? So we're going to start with 8 reasons why brands are important. And then we're going to finish with the 5 critical elements that go into a brand. And then we're done. And I've got 13 minutes and 13 points. Think I can do it? Yeah, you don't know me. All right, number 1, brands promote recognition. So if you're taking notes, write down the big words. That's all you got to remember this morning. Brands promote recognition. Why? Well, people tend to do business with brands that they're familiar with and that they're comfortable with. And so they provide that recognition to us as consumers. Brands help set you apart from your competition. You've got to have something that differentiates you from everybody else. Because we're literally on a daily basis bombarded by hundreds, if not thousands, of brands. So how do we distinguish you from everybody else? Number 3, a brand tells people about your business DNA. It could start with a simple logo, very recognizable. If we close our eyes and I said, what's the first image that comes to your mind when I say the word Nike? Swoosh, right? It's the first thing that comes to mind. When we say Target or Target, we think of the red bullseye. It doesn't matter what I say, most of the time, the first thing that comes to your mind is the physical brand mark of that company. That's why it's important. All the way down to how you answer the phone at your company is a part of the brand experience. How many of us have called a business and based on how the individual answers the phone, you know what kind of mood that person's in that day? That simple thing is a reflection of your brand, whether you want to believe it or not. Number 4, a brand provides direction and motivation for your staff. There's no better way to get a staff on board with what you're trying to achieve as a company than to have a very solid, effective brand, because they can rally around that and they can be proud of that. Nike employees love to wear Nike. Why? Because they believe in the brand. They believe in the brand so much that they want to wear it. They're proud of wearing it. And because if they got caught dead wearing Adidas or Under Armour, they wouldn't be employees of Nike, right? Number 5, a strong brand generates referrals. We wear brands, we live brands, we eat brands, and when we experience a good brand and we enjoy that brand, we tell other people about it. We become vehicles of referral for our brands. and our consumers do that as well. Number 6, brands are a promise mark as opposed to a trademark. Brands are a promise mark as opposed to a trademark. So when you hear or see and experience the brand Publix, for example. Unfortunately, we don't have Publix in Bowling Green, and I wish we did. But when you experience Publix, you understand that that's a promise. When I walk into a Publix in Nashville or in Florida when I'm vacationing, I know, based on the mark on the building as I walk in, what type of experience I'm going to have. Because they back it up with the promise that they're going to deliver exceptional service and an exceptional experience while you grocery shop. A brand helps you engage emotionally with your customers. Purchasing is an emotional experience, especially the higher the amount gets, the more emotional that purchase and that buying habit becomes. Deodorant, not so much, although we are very faithful to our brands, are we not? I've been wearing the same deodorant since I was in high school, same brand. Some of you women are probably wearing the same makeup brand that you started wearing when you were in high school. You're loyal to brands. We all are. But as the amount gets larger, like the purchase of a vehicle, now that's an emotional experience. And so we want to make sure that our brand conveys an experience at the emotional level. Because once we bring in that consumer at the emotional level, we have them. And it's much more difficult for that individual, you and I, to leave that brand because we have that emotional connection. And if you have a brand, an effective brand, you can have that emotional experience. And number 8, a strong brand provides your business or product value. Think about this. True fact. Brands are intangible assets and account for, on average, 75% of the value of a company. The brand itself, 75% of the value. So you take a brand like Apple. The value in that brand is in the mark, is in the actual brand, okay? Same thing with Nike. Same thing with Rolls-Royce. Same thing with Honda. All of those brands, the value, the intangible value, because if somebody comes along and wants to buy Rolls-Royce, they're not buying the factories. They're not buying the people that work in the factories and that make the cars. What are they buying? What's the value? The Rolls-Royce brand mark. That's where the value is. That's why it's important for you and I to have effective brands for our businesses and our products. Your brand is your promise to your customer, period. So let me ask you this, or you ask yourself this. Who are you? Who needs to know? How will they find you? And why should they care? So when you get ready to start your business, you need to write down these 4 questions and answer them effectively. Because you need to know who you are. And you need to know who needs to know that. And how will they find you and why should they care? If you've got distinctive answers for these 4 questions, then you have something. And if you don't, then you don't have a well-strategized, effectively messaged, integrated brand. You just don't. Because you're going to be like everybody else that didn't take the time to truly understand who we are and why others should care. Because if you don't know who you are, then how can you expect others to know or care who you are? Right? All right. Last 5 points, and then we're finished. The 5 essential elements of a solid brand. We're going to start with number 1. Logo. It's instant and powerful recognition of your brand. It creates your image and it puts a face on your business. Why is that important? Well, a logo is to a business as your face is to you. Anybody know who this is? Natalie Portman. Simply by covering up her face, we didn't know who she was. And it's the same thing with your brand and your company. Because without it, you're just nobody. And it's that important. Okay? Pitch is number 2. It's your personal brand statement. It's who you are. It's what you do and how you can help. Consider it your elevator speech or your elevator pitch. Okay? It's very critical to understand how to convey who you are in what they call an elevator speech or an elevator pitch. Why? Because you're typically on the elevator for 30 seconds or less. And if I can't convey what I do for a living or what my brand or what my product does, then we're done. Number 3, voice. Heart and soul of your communications. You have to have a voice. So you have a brand mark and a logo. You've created your pitch, your mantra of who you are. And then you have to have a voice and how you convey that. Okay? It's the tone with which you speak or connect. Some brands have fun with their products. Others are very serious. Others make you cry. Others pull you in different ways. But every effective brand has a voice in how they convey their message. Okay? Very important. It's your personality. We all have personalities, right? Some of us are more fun than others, more serious than others, more smart than others. But we have a personality. That's who we are. Your brand should say the same thing. Number 4, consistent, integrated marketing. Why is this important? Well, all efforts should be integrated. Offline, online, it doesn't matter. Have a consistent, integrated marketing plan in how you communicate your brand to your audience. Inconsistency is a brand killer. Have you ever been confused by a brand? Have you ever had a brand tell you one thing one day and then another thing another? And you get confused. You're not sure what they stand for or what they believe. You have to have consistency. This very university has consistency with its brand mark. And they have guidelines and rules on how you apply that and how you use that internally and externally, because they have to consistently message the brand for its strength. Number 5, be a market leader. What does that mean? Deliver on your value proposition. Deliver on your promises. And most importantly, differentiate yourself. We all want to be different. All of us do. Except Brian and I, we decided to be twins this morning. But we want to be different as individuals, and we show that in how we go about life and what we wear and what we do and what we buy. And your business should be the same. You have to differentiate. I tell a quick story. My daughter, when she was in kindergarten, we were driving every day. I was taking her to kindergarten at Rich Pond Elementary. Took the back roads, the scenic route, the country roads. And one day, after driving this road many times, she noticed all the corn on either side of the street was the same height. And she said from the back seat, "Dad, why does the corn all grow the same height?" And I thought to myself, now that's a pretty powerful question coming from the back seat of a kindergartner. But it got me thinking. And of course, I applied my answer to my world of marketing and branding. And I said, well, I don't really know the answer to that, Haley. I'm not the scientist. But I will tell you this, wouldn't it be really cool if tomorrow we were driving down this same road and we looked out across the field and there was a single corn stalk standing 10 or 20 feet taller than all the others? And she's like, well, that would be pretty cool. I'd notice that one. And there she made my point. Your brand has to be that corn stalk that's 10 or 20 feet taller than all the others, to differentiate, to stand out among everybody else. Here they are: pitch, voice, logo, consistent integrated marketing, and you've got to be a market leader. So finally, I'll leave you with this. If you're not a brand, you're a commodity. Nobody wants to be a commodity. And with that, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.